The first thing that made people uncomfortable wasn't even the audio itself. It was Queen Letizia's silence after it leaked. Not the kind of silence you expect from a palace trying to calm rumors. I'm talking about the kind of silence that feels calculated. Like everybody inside the Spanish royal family suddenly understood that one small recording had exposed something much bigger than a family disagreement. And honestly, the second I heard the alleged transcript people were circulating online, I stopped thinking this was just another royal gossip cycle. Because this story isn't really about audio. It's about control. It's about what happens when a future queen realizes the people protecting the crown might also be protecting themselves first. And if you've been following Princess Leonor closely these past few months, you probably noticed something changed in her face recently. The military appearances, the carefully controlled smiles, the sharper body language, she suddenly looks less like a teenager being prepared for the throne and more like someone learning the cost of it in real time. That's why this alleged palace leak hit so hard. Not because of what was said, but because of what it confirmed. And the craziest part, while Prince William and Catherine are out projecting this almost cinematic image of royal stability in Britain, Spain's monarchy feels completely different right now. More fragile, more tense, almost like every public appearance is hiding a negotiation behind the scenes. And I think viewers can feel that. Because audiences in 2026 are smarter than palaces think. They don't just watch what royals say anymore. They watch pauses, expressions, who avoids eye contact, who suddenly stops appearing together. That's the real story now. And if you're new to Leonor's story, subscribe, I post every day. Because this situation, it might become one of the defining moments of her entire future reign. Now here's where things get complicated. The alleged leaked audio reportedly came from a private palace discussion connected to Leonor's public image strategy during her military phase. And before people jump to conclusions, no, there's no official confirmation from the palace about the recording itself. But honestly, that almost makes it more interesting. Because when a rumor is completely false, royal households usually crush it immediately. Instead, what we got was distance. Careful wording, controlled appearances. That tells me the palace understood one dangerous thing. The public believed it. And once the public emotionally believes a royal story, facts almost become secondary. That's the terrifying part of modern monarchy. Perception is the real crown now. The alleged conversation suggested Letizia was pushing palace advisors to prioritize Leonor's image over Leonor herself. That line exploded online because it fed into a suspicion many royal watchers already had for years, that Queen Letizia sees the monarchy as something that must survive at all costs, even if the emotional cost lands directly on her daughter. Now personally, I think people oversimplify Letizia way too much. The internet loves turning royal women into either villains or victims. But reality is usually colder than that. I don't think Letizia is some evil mastermind sitting in palace corridors plotting against Leonor. I think she's terrified. Terrified because she knows exactly how brutal royal life really is. Remember, Letizia wasn't born royal. She entered this machine from the outside. Unlike Leonor, she remembers what normal life looked like before cameras controlled every movement. And maybe that's why her approach feels harsher. Because outsiders often become the strongest defenders of institutions once they enter them. They know how quickly public opinion can destroy everything. Honestly, it reminds me of how some people compare modern royals to major online brands now. Sounds weird, but think about it. Mr. Beast understands audience retention better than most television networks. Royal palaces now study engagement, public reactions, trending clips, TikTok edits, all of it. Monarchy in 2026 isn't just tradition anymore. It's content management. And I know that sounds cynical, but tell me I'm wrong. Why do you think Leonor's military photos are framed so carefully? Why do you think every speech clip suddenly trends within minutes? Why do you think the palace keeps emphasizing discipline and duty right now? Because they're building a symbol. But here's the hidden danger nobody talks about. The more you turn a person into a symbol, the less freedom that person actually has. That's where the alleged betrayal starts making emotional sense to people. Not betrayal in the dramatic Hollywood way. Betrayal in the quieter way. The kind where a mother slowly starts seeing her daughter as the future of the institution before seeing her as just her daughter. And that's dark. One moment people keep bringing up happened during Leonor's recent public appearances. Watch carefully and you'll notice something subtle. Leonor has become much more measured around Letizia publicly. Less spontaneous. More formal. Maybe that means nothing. Or maybe it means everything. That's what makes royal storytelling so addictive. The monarchy survives on ambiguity. The palace never gives you enough information to fully confirm anything. But they also never fully erase the suspicion. And in the middle of all this, Leonor herself has become strangely more relatable to younger audiences. Why? Because people her age are exhausted too. Not royal level exhausted obviously, but emotionally exhausted from performance culture. From constantly needing to look composed online. From building personal brands. From being watched. Leonor represents that pressure at the highest possible level. Imagine being 20 years old and every smile becomes international analysis. Every friendship becomes a headline. Every relationship rumor becomes diplomatic conversation. That's not a normal life. That's psychological surveillance. And I honestly think this alleged leak exploded because people suddenly saw Leonor less as a princess, and more as a trapped young woman trying to survive a system older than she is. Now here's my hot take that some royal fans probably won't like. I think the Spanish monarchy accidentally made Leonor too important too early. Everything now revolves around her image. Her military training, her future relationships, her speeches, her posture, her reactions. That creates impossible pressure because it means any emotional crack becomes global discussion. Compare that to older royal eras. Future monarchs used to have distance, mystery, years to develop privately. Leonor doesn't get that luxury. Social media killed royal privacy completely. And I think Letizia knows it. Which may explain why she allegedly became so obsessed with controlling the narrative around her daughter. But here's the tragic irony. The harder you control a narrative, the more explosive leaks become when they happen. That's exactly what happened here. Suddenly people weren't discussing Leonor's military achievements anymore. They were discussing emotional manipulation inside the palace. And once audiences start framing royal stories emotionally instead of institutionally, the palace loses control fast. That's the real danger. Because modern viewers don't defend institutions automatically anymore. They defend individuals they emotionally connect with. Right now, Leonor has that emotional connection. And honestly, the palace may have underestimated how protective people have become of her. Especially younger viewers. A lot of them see Leonor almost like someone carrying expectations she never fully chose herself. That changes everything. Now let me say something important here because this gets lost online all the time. None of us truly know what happens inside that palace. We see fragments, moments, expressions, leaks, but that's it. And I think responsible commentary matters now more than ever because YouTube is full of channels presenting rumors like proven facts. That's dangerous. What interests me isn't whether every detail of the leak is authentic. What interests me is why millions of people instantly believed it could be authentic. That reveals the deeper truth. People already sensed tension. People already sensed emotional distance. People already suspected the monarchy was becoming more strategic and less personal behind closed doors. The alleged audio simply gave those suspicions a voice. And honestly, some of the palace's recent behavior hasn't helped. The ultra-controlled appearances. The perfectly timed media releases. The careful staging. Sometimes it feels less like a family and more like a corporation protecting a global brand. And maybe that sounds unfair. But perception matters more than intention in royal life. That's the brutal lesson Leonor is learning right now. Another thing nobody talks about enough is how lonely future monarchs probably become. Who can Leonor fully trust? Friends may want access. Media wants stories. The institution wants stability. The public wants perfection. And even family relationships become complicated because the crown is always sitting in the room invisibly. That's why this story resonates emotionally. Because deep down, I think people are asking one uncomfortable question. What happens if the people preparing you for power accidentally isolate you from real life completely? That's the danger of royal systems in general. And history proves it over and over again. Some royals survive that pressure. Others break under it quietly. Now to be fair, Leonor also appears stronger lately. More disciplined, more focused, almost sharper. So maybe this entire experience is transforming her into exactly the kind of queen Spain wants. But at what cost? That's the part one keep coming back to. Because every monarchy eventually faces the same impossible choice. Protect the institution, or protect the human being carrying it. And sometimes those two goals start conflicting. That's where Letizia's image becomes fascinating. I don't think she's trying to hurt Leonor. I think she genuinely believes toughness is survival. Maybe she thinks emotional distance now prevents bigger damage later. Maybe she believes preparing Leonor brutally is actually love. And honestly, That's what makes this story tragic instead of simple. Because the worst family conflicts usually happen when both sides think they're protecting each other. But protection can start feeling like control very quickly. Especially inside royal life. By the way, notice how quickly international media latched onto this story too. That tells you something important. The world is desperate for younger royal narratives right now. People are emotionally invested in Leonor the same way previous generations became invested in William, Harry, Diana, or Catherine. But there's a difference. Leonor grew up during the algorithm era. Every controversy multiplies instantly. Every rumor becomes content. Every expression becomes analysis. There's almost no escape from public interpretation anymore. And honestly, I think that's the hidden message behind this entire controversy. The leak itself may eventually disappear. But the feeling it created won't. People now look at Leonor differently, less like a distant princess. More like someone navigating pressure most adults couldn't survive. And maybe that emotional connection becomes her greatest strength one day. Because the future of monarchy probably won't belong to the most perfect royal anymore. It'll belong to the royal who feels the most human. And ironically, this alleged betrayal may have made Leonor more human than ever before. So what have I learned watching this entire situation unfold? Honestly, power always changes family dynamics. Always. And when duty becomes larger than personal relationships, even love can start sounding strategic. That's the unsettling feeling people got from this story. Not hatred, not scandal, just the fear that somewhere inside the palace, the future Queen of Spain stopped being treated like a daughter first. And if that feeling continues growing publicly, the monarchy may face a much bigger problem than one leaked audio clip. Because once people emotionally side with the heir over the institution usually loses control of the story.